I'm going to talk to you about something in the next few moments that I'm very excited about and almost nobody else is. So I've asked for all the doors to be bolted at all the facilities all over the world just for a little while. I want to talk about the work habits of a leader. Wherever I go and whenever I meet leaders, and by God's grace, I've been able to meet some leaders of whole countries, huge multinational corporations, large NGOs, little youth groups. I meet a lot of leaders. And often, if I can pull the covers back a little bit and say, what do you struggle with every day? Really? They'll say, actually, it's my work habits. Sometimes I see the overwhelming need and I don't know how to order my life to make the maximum contribution I can make to this organization that I'm supposed to be leading. Many leaders incorrectly assume that the most important leadership asset is their time. Because people are always clamoring for more of your time. It must be extremely valuable, right? I humbly disagree. I've concluded the leader's most valuable asset is their energy and their ability to energize other people. Their ability to energize visions, their ability to energize the values of the organization, to energize the culture, their ability to energize new initiatives. Now that is something absolutely unique about a leader. It's their energizing capabilities. This is rarely talked about, but so critical to leadership. The way I stumbled upon this discovery is that I was on a plane coming back to Chicago from training leaders in Europe. The closer we got to the U.S., the more I realized how much work was waiting for me back at the church. I'd been gone for 3 weeks. It was mid-November. The Christmas season was just around the corner, and I could feel the anxiety starting to build up in my spirit the closer we got to Chicago. So I prayed the leader's prayer. You all know the leader's prayer. Dear God, help, please help fast. I need help so desperately. It's not a particularly deep prayer, but extremely sincere in my view. For some reason, after the prayer, I took out my journal that I write in when I'm thinking leadership thoughts, and I wrote one of the best questions that I had written in a long time. Here's what I wrote in my journal that day. God, in the remaining 6 weeks of this calendar year, because that's about all I had, what would be the greatest half-dozen contributions I could make to the church that you and I both love? Between now and the end of the year, what would be the greatest half-dozen contributions I could make to the church that you and I both love? And of course, you love it more. Answering that single question took the remaining 2 hours of that flight into Chicago. It required some of the most intense thinking I had done in months. Partway through that exercise, it started to become clear to me that my most important contribution between then and the end of the year was that I was going to have to energize some people and I was going to have to energize some initiatives. Then I got very specific to see if I could prioritize 6. And so I did. I said, I need to energize the team that's planning our Christmas Eve services. I need to energize the whole Willow congregation to give generously to an AIDS in Africa initiative that we had committed to. I need to energize the building committee of our board to take several $1 million of cost out of a building that we were building that was getting too expensive. I had to energize a reorganization process that we were doing in one of our student ministries. I had to energize myself for the teaching assignments I had through the rest of the year and so forth. But after 2 hours of thinking this through, just as the plane was starting its approach into Chicago, I reached for an index card in my briefcase and I put the letters 6 by 6, just like that, 6 by 6 on the top of that little index card. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to do these 6 things. I'm going to focus on these 6 things with the 6 weeks I have left in the year. I looked at that 6 by 6 as I'd written all that stuff down on it. And no kidding, I felt a sense of clarity and excitement that was totally different than how I had felt a couple hours prior to that. I felt focused instead of overwhelmed, fired up instead of anxious. I could barely wait to get back into the office. The next morning, I went into work early, and I prayed over that 6 by 6 card, saying, God, If we could achieve these 6 challenges together in the next 6 weeks, your church would be in fantastic shape by year end. I was like a heat-seeking missile those 6 weeks at the end of that year. I prayed like a mad monk. I energized all of what needed energizing, and I deliberately disregarded second-tier activities. And 5 out of the 6 challenges on that little index card got done by year end. And on December 31st of that year end, I was filled with such a sense of exhilaration. I was so grateful to God. When the new year rolled around, I decided to try this practice again. I asked myself, God, what would be the greatest half dozen unique and significant contributions that I could make to our church in the first 6 weeks of the new year? Side note, there's nothing sacred about 6 weeks or 6 unique contributions. But I can't sprint for 6 months. None of you can. But you can all sprint for 6 weeks. Most of us leaders are juggling dozens of challenges and dozens of responsibilities, and to prioritize it down to 6 that will most impact your organization. Not the 6 you most feel like doing, 6 that will most impact your organization. If you do that, hone that down to 6, it will help you more than you think. Hence, sort of the 6 by 6. During the next 6 weeks, the second round that I did this, I worked with tremendous focus. I prayed with greater specificity and fervency, and I shook my head when almost all the objectives got done again. What happened next, when I decided to take this round 3, brought this concept to a whole different level. For the first 2 rounds of this, I hadn't changed anything in my daily schedule to accommodate this new practice. I was having the same meetings, the same times with the same people. And then I thought to myself, wait a minute, what if I arrange my daily and weekly schedule around my 6 by 6 card? This was the single greatest breakthrough of my working practice life. Putting what I call energy bursts against overwhelming odds and seeing God do incredible, supernatural things. I'll never forget back in year 2000, we were praying some bold prayers that year. And our congregation was united around some of these big dreams that we had. We decided we wanted to go truly global with the Leadership Summit. We wanted to go multi-site and plant 3 new regional campuses. We decided we needed to build this new auditorium. We tabulated the scope of all that work, and we tabulated the cost of all of those endeavors. When I saw the number, the cost, for the first time, I felt a drip go down my leg. I was like, this is absolutely ridiculous. And I went into work the next day, and I said, this is impossible to do. But then it occurred to me, wait a minute. For the last couple of years, I've used this 6 by 6 strategy. What if I were simply to start to put energy bursts throughout my day against all of these challenges? So I did. I put energy bursts into raising money, energy bursts into what it's going to take for us to go multi-site. I had 2 energy bursts a week with the design team for this auditorium. And then another energy burst about 90 minutes a week to figure out how to take the global summit from just a handful of countries to scores of countries. And for the next several, get this, years, I ate, drank, and slept this 6 by 6 concept. I focused, prayed, and energized the teams of people to do their best for God in each of these initiatives. And finally, and I didn't even quite remember when we crossed over, but finally there came that day when I realized the money is all raised. The building is completely finished. The 3 regional campuses are up and going well and doing great. The Leadership Summit is in scores of countries. And I shook my head and I dug out that stack of little 6 by 6 index cards that helped me stay fired up and focused every single day during that era. I was tempted to frame them. These days, all of the senior leaders at Willow Creek Church work by these 6 by 6s. It's the primary way that we manage who's doing what around here and who's prioritizing what and who's going to get it done how soon. And just to be clear, these 6x6 initiatives are all above and beyond a person's regular job description. What we want to know is, in addition to your regular responsibilities that you get your regular paycheck for, what new initiatives and new projects and new endeavors are you going to move ahead in the next 6 weeks? This has helped our culture. This makes us, a high performance and a bold praying and kind of a nervous excitement culture, because we're always trying to see how we can move something ahead.